Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It's January 9th, and you've reached another edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we, of course, have another amazing show like we always do. But before we bring on our first guest, I have a couple of announcements, and then we're going to be showing a video for you about Rhonda's event coming up next month. So the couple of things I wanted to say that the book festival, the National Black Book Festival registration for 2024 is open now. People have really been signing up. So we do expect to sell out earlier than usual this year. So if you're planning to attend, please just sign up, and all you have to do is make a small deposit to hold your table. So the dates are October 17th through the 19th. And so we're excited about this year's event. And if you want to see the photos from 2023, we posted them. There are hundreds of them on Facebook and Instagram on our pages. So now we're going to let Rhonda just tell you a little bit about her event, and then we're going to show the video.
All right. First of all, I love the photos from the National Black Book Festival. The photographer did a great job really capturing people's personality and the smiles. So I really been enjoying looking at all the pictures. So I'll just throw that out there. But the Black History Month Literary Weekend will be taking place here in the DMV, February 22nd through the 24th. And we have a whole weekend of events planned. On the 22nd, will be coffee with an author at PJ's Coffee House in Bowie, Maryland. And then that night we'll have a private meet and greet for authors, guests, and sponsors. And then on the 23rd, we'll be visiting a couple of local high schools. And then we'll have a chat and sign at Barnes & Noble, also in Bowie. And then on the 24th, will be the Ivory and Cream Affair Literary Jazz Brunch. And that event is absolutely beautiful. We ask all the guests to wear their favorite ivory or cream outfits. We'll have a live band. We're going to have a live fashion show with the actual New York designer who's coming in to show off his designs at the event. We'll be featuring 10 authors. And one of the authors is actually going to be on tonight. And then we're going to have two special guests, Marita Golden and Tiffany Warren. And they're both local here to the DMV area, but you have heard of Tiffany Warren. She is the executive producer of the Christmas movie that just aired this past holiday called Favorite Son Christmas, which is based on one of her best-selling books. And Marita Golden is a book coach extraordinaire. She wrote a book called Strong Black Women, and she has also been a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. So I'm telling you, this event is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm just looking forward to everything. And the big part about it is we are offering an 8th and 9th grade essay contest. So the essay contest period is open now. You can go to the Meet the World Image Solutions website to download the application. And one winner from each grade will receive a cash prize, and they'll be also able to read their essays at the Ivory and Cream Affair. So I'm really excited about that. We've been offering this scholarship for 8th and 9th graders for the past 7 years. We didn't do it our first year, but we did it every year after that. And it's been a really phenomenal experience. And I just really love hearing our young people's thoughts, because my thing is we have to get our kids interested in writing early. We can't expect them to just have a light bulb go off when they're in their senior years. So if if they get those skills now while they're still young, then it's something they're going to keep with them for a long time. So that's the
Okay.
Black History Month Literary Weekend.
Okay. So now we're going to show the video about the event. Then we're going to bring on our first guest.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a very nice video produced, I believe, by Meet the World Image Solutions. And it tells you a little bit about the event. So we're going to be bringing on our first guest, and her name is Tanisha Ford. She is the author of the new book called Our Secret Society. And the subhead is Molly Moon and the Glamour, Money, and Power Behind the Civil Rights Movement. So we've had several different authors on with different takes about the civil rights movement over the course of the 3.5 years we've had the show. This is a new angle about the secret society. So, Tanisha, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, so first, tell us why the secret society angle? Why are you a relative of some of the people who are in the secret society? What made you interested in that, some of the behind the scenes? And it seems like it's glamour involved.
Yes, to my knowledge, I'm not related to any of the central figures in the book, but I came across this amazing Black woman named Molly Moon when I was in the archive doing work for another project. And once I started to follow her through the Black press, I was able to see that she was this amazing social leader in Harlem society in the 1950s and 60s. And that led me to realize that she was connected to everyone from, James Baldwin and Langston Hughes to Josephine Baker to, fill in the blank celebrities. She knew them. And she also knew a lot of the wealthy white folks like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Mellons. And, the list just really went on of her connections. And a lot of these social events that she hosted, galas and costumed affairs, the Ebony Fashion Fair. She was the first person in New York to bring the Ebony Fashion Fair to the city in the early 1960s, were fundraisers, right? Like these were fundraisers for the civil rights movement. So I wanted to use her life and her experiences dealing in the glamour and the money and the power to tell this story about networks of money and wealth that really bolstered the civil rights movement. And like you said, this is an angle we really haven't studied before. We really haven't heard this. We haven't been let into the back rooms of how the money was moved across the country to support the movement and where that money came from. So this became a way for me to not only piece together Molly Moon's social Rolodex, but to also think about the history of Black philanthropy, to think about how we have served our own, how we've used our money to support our own, and then also the dangers of involving wealthy white philanthropists in that mix as well. So I try to cover a lot of ground using money, power, and glamour as lenses into the history.
It sounds like a story you kind of tripped upon and then you were glad you did.
Most certainly, that's exactly what happened. I, was looking for something else. In fact, I was looking for a Black fashion model who was a figure in the dissertation I was working on at the time. And it just so happened that she was the face of this white-owned wig shop in Harlem that many Black nationalists were protesting against because they felt like they were selling Black women a European vision of beauty. So this woman was, she became the model that they hired to try to give legitimacy to this store. And that same woman just happened to be a beauty pageant in Molly Moon's all Black Beaux-Arts ball pageant. So that woman led me to Molly Moon, and I'm so glad she did.
I like it because I think that we often romanticize the civil rights movement and we think it was a bootstraps type of movement where it was totally funded by poor people and everybody opened their doors up and let this movement happen. And just like you're saying, it had to take some pretty powerful dollars in order for them to accomplish as much as they did. And I think it's something we don't always think about.
Most certainly. So for sure, everyday African Americans were giving money to support the movement. Like that's beyond a shadow of a doubt true. But especially once we get on the other side of Brown v. Board of Education, that decision in 1954, I mean, the white response from segregationists was really virulent, meaning like they were going after Black people who were then trying to exercise their right to, enter in public spaces, right? The legal segregation had been overturned in the land. And so you have people who are exercising their right, people who want to enroll their kids in schools that previously Black folks couldn't attend. And so white citizens councils were formed, in addition to the more vigilante violence of like the Ku Klux Klan that we know more about. But these white citizens councils were the bank presidents. They were the university presidents. They were all these people who were part of the white elite in the South. And they made it their point to cause a financial stranglehold on the civil rights movement across the South. So that meant that in order to overcome the kind of economic drain that major civil rights organizations like the NAACP and the National Urban League were experiencing, they had to find other sources of money. So oftentimes that meant turning toward the moneyed elite of New York City, people who are titans of industry, the so-called robber barons of Wall Street, right? Of the steel and railroad and oil industries, turning to them to help bail the Black community out of this financial debt that was caused by other wealthy white folks who did not like the idea of African Americans having equal access to public accommodations in the United States. So there are these, so we had to turn toward that money as a lesser of two evils. Right. And so I wanted to both be able to discuss just the long traditions of Black giving by everyday African Americans. Studies have shown that we outgive members of other races within our same income bracket, across the class stratosphere. We are givers. It's, part and parcel to how we understand mutual aid and community uplift. But so I wanted to tell that and hold that intention with the fact that, things like the March on Washington, millions of dollars came to support the March on Washington from wealthy philanthropists, philanthropic families, philanthropic foundations, and also corporations. And to show that there were various political divides over whether or not we should take this money. Martin Luther King and Whitney Young, for example, took the money. Martin Luther King more reticently than Whitney Young, but Malcolm X was completely against it. He felt like this was selling the movement out. So I wanted to show this whole spectrum of Black political thought.
When you talk about, oh, what were you saying, Rhonda?
No, I was just saying, I believe that Malcolm X alluded to that in his book, in his autobiography.
Most certainly in his speech, Message to the Grassroots, he talks specifically about the March on Washington. He calls it the farce on Washington. He says
Yes.
circus, he talks specifically about Stephen Currier, who was the head of the Taconic Foundation, which Taconic, along with the Field Foundation, were major supporters of the voter registration and education drives of the early 1960s, and also the March on Washington. And he likens Currier as to the Jesse James and his bandit of outlaws who are stealing the movement. They're giving all this money in order to steer the movement away from real grassroots change. So if you go back to that speech, a lot of times we get hung up on the field Negro versus house Negro paradigm. But in that same speech, he's talking about the dangers of accepting these big dollar donations from foundations and corporations.
Well, anytime you take money from anybody, if you have a nonprofit or just in any situation, a donation or work, if you have a client, once money has changed hands, that it makes the relationship have a different dynamic. And I'm sure some of the donations were based on altruism, but some of it was also based on control as well.
Exactly. So, in Whitney Young's perspective, the Curriers weren't like some of these other old guard philanthropic foundations. They were a smaller foundation. They were very hands-on in terms of their engagement with organizations. They weren't just tossing money down, from their gilded tower. They wanted to be hands-on, and oftentimes they gave money without major stipulations. Like this is, when you read things that Whitney Young has written about the Taconic Foundation, these are the things that he says. So in the book, I try to make certain differentiations so that I don't just lump all these foundations into the same boat and say they all had the same motives, they all operated in the same way. But it is also true that, as you say, once the money changes hands, it does create a relationship oftentimes where the Black organizations are coming to these white donors as supplicants, asking for money. And Martin Luther King, as I opened the book with this story about Martin Luther King and how he ends up at the Rockefeller estate giving this luncheon lecture for the National Urban League. He's there because they've taken all this money for the March on Washington, and because he's the most prominent figure in the among these civil rights organizations, he's the one who has to oftentimes go in and do the song and dance for money, and he grows tired of this. And so we see Martin Luther King's own politics become more anti-capitalist,
money, and he grows tired of it. So we see
pro, working class. And that happens in large part as a result of his interactions with people. He's learning more, he's expanding his political economic vision, but he's also realizing that we can only go so far if we are beholden to this white money. So I wanted to, again, write about all these things. And of course, I'm doing so in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, and we have all these promises of money and donations to Black organizations, and we're going to expand DEI in the workplace, and everybody's so sorry and apologetic about racism, and so once that happens, we see millions of dollars. We go from not knowing Mackenzie Scott's name to now Mackenzie Scott is giving money to every HBCU and every Black nonprofit she can find, right? So we're living through a parallel moment to the moment that the book studies. And from the conversations I've had with Black women and other folks who work in the nonprofit space, not much has changed. We're still dealing with a lot of these deep disparities in terms of how our organizations are funded, that from schools to art centers to nonprofit organizations. I mean, these disparities are there. So I wanted to definitely discuss that history while also discussing the joys, right, that Molly Moon created for Black people who came to her events. So the everyday Black folk who could dance alongside Muhammad Ali, or Billie Holiday, who often performed at her events, how they came dressed in their fineries. I mean, it was really a Black joy practice that she was trying to use these events to create. So I also wanted to explore that as well. You know, I know just from what I see on social media and also people in my own personal social circle that Black people want to see stories that move us beyond tragedy and you know, just the horrors of Black life and being Black in America. And we want to see a fuller picture of our lives represented in our history. And this story is one of those stories, right? That allows, I don't sugarcoat the history, you know, but I also don't use it to dwell on how terrible our situation is in this country as either, right? I really want to talk about the beauty of Blackness, you know, and the fullness of our experience. And so for me, writing this book was a real joy project in and of itself. Reading those old Black newspapers and magazines, reading Black women and men who had columns in the Black newspapers and seeing the strength of our newspapers and how they would write those columns and cover all of our social events. I mean, it really made me proud.
So how long did it take you to do the research for this book?
Well, when I first encountered Molly Moon's name in the archive, this was around 2010. And I think I would say I began the research in earnest around 2014, 2015. And so depending on where you want to start that date, I mean, we're nearly a decade, you know. It took basically a decade to do the research for this book, to write this book, you know, to do interviews. You know, it was so much work, but it's really a labor of love. It really is a labor of love, because if it's not for people like me who tell these undertold, understudied histories, they will not be told. We're about to roll into MLK Day and then into Black History Month and Women's History Month. And the nation has its stories that it wants to trot out every year. It's always the same narrative. They never even switch it up, right? So you need, you know, really earnest researchers such as myself, or at least I like to think I am, who are deeply invested in our stories and deeply invested in finding new ways for us to see ourselves and to understand our ancestors and, you know, the people from whom we come. And I think that story, when we use that as an impulse, it's one that will guide us toward our own forms of joy and freedom, you know? So that's always my aim.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm assuming the image behind you is Molly Moon.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is.
She kind of looks like Felicia Rashad. She, you know,
Okay.
kind of reminds you of her. You know,
Yeah, in the sense that I could see that, in the sense that, you know, she was a very classy woman, very well put together, very, very conscious of, you know, how she styled herself. She definitely put a lot of effort into her personal appearance. But what might shock people is that she wasn't a woman who was deeply invested in respectability. Definitely Black dignity, right? Like Black people deserve equal treatment, period, right? She was very unapologetic about that. But she wasn't deeply wrapped up in like Black women must perform in this way. We must look this way. We must, you know, eat with this spoon and this fork and not that. We must eat these foods and not that. She wasn't this, you know, middle-class Black woman in the way that we like. Oftentimes we tell these histories of as if all Black folks were caught up in, you know, these class politics in a certain kind of way that made them illegible to everyday Black folk. Molly Moon, of course, she was an educated woman. She had a degree in pharmacy from Meharry, but she left that life behind, as well as a marriage to her first husband, who was also a pharmacist, who was from a bourgeois family from New Orleans. She left that life to join the bohemian artistic community in Harlem in the early 1930s, where she was friends with people like Langston Hughes and Dorothy West and Zora Neale Hurston and Katherine Dunham. I mean, the list goes on. And she became a social worker. And her third husband is Henry Lee Moon, who became the the publicity director of the NAACP. But before that, he was a very Ta-Nehisi Coates-esque journalist who wrote about lynching and racial violence. And he even has an article I found in the newspaper that essentially says respectability won't save us from being lynched. I mean, it's the very language that activists are using present day. So, I mean, this is the man she marries, and she remains married to him for the rest of their lives. So her life was very unconventional in certain ways. So while she ascended to certain social status because of her work with the National Urban League, and especially after she founded the National Urban League Guild, she wasn't someone who looked down her nose on everyday Black people, on Black folks who didn't have degrees and so forth. She felt that it was her responsibility to work alongside members of the Black working class to create equal opportunities for everyone, regardless of class status.
Okay, now what was her background, like her family background? I know you said she was a pharmacist and she went to Meharry, but like, were you able to find out anything about her parents and her
Yes.
upbringing?
Yeah, so she was born into a working class Black family in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. This would have been in the Jim Crow era, just as Jim Crow was really concretizing in the law. She was born in 1907. So, a decade into Jim Crow is when she's born in the Deep South to young parents. I mean, young by today's standards, by,
Right.
1907 standards, not so young. A family that was deeply invested in education. Her mother attended Rust College's secondary school. So again, schools like Rust, which now are four-year institutions. They started off as institutions that educated the formerly enslaved. So her mother went to school there, and it seems that she was on track to even attend high school at Rust, which was a big deal for someone of her generation to go on to have a high school education. That was rather uncommon for African Americans at the turn of the 20th century.
Right.
But because she got married and had Molly, she ended up leaving her schooling around 8th grade. But Molly was definitely mandated to go to school, to advance her education as far as she could. So Molly then also attended Rust. And I must point out that Rust is the school also that Ida B. Wells attended. So Molly would have been very aware of Ida B. Wells and her legacy and her work. And so she graduates from she graduates from Rust High School and then heads to Meharry. So this is a woman who was educated in the South, who comes from working class roots, who, spent a good chunk of her formative years in Cleveland, Ohio, where her mother had migrated after she and her husband divorced to be with family in Cleveland. So I chart their migration and how Molly was shaped by the Midwest and also the Deep South.
Well,
Okay.
the book was released back in October, so it's only been out a couple of months. What has been the response to this book?
Well, I mean, the response has been great. I'm still trying to get the word out about it. So many books are published in any given month, especially when you're facing an election. No, a lot of people don't want to publish in the fall of an election. So they're trying to get you to publish the year before the election or the year after the election. So a lot of books came out, but even in that crowded field, I feel like this book is finding readers. I've done a lot of radio, a lot of NPR, a lot of podcasts have allowed me to connect with readers. I went on a book tour, traveled to several cities talking about this book. It was named one of Vanity Fair's 20 favorite books of 2023, one of Miss Magazine's favorite books of 2023, so it was good to make some lists. We're starting to get some good reviews, but it really matters to me that this book connects with Black readers. Whenever I write with us front of mind. So it matters to me that this book finds an audience of Black readers. It matters to me that Black communities know this history, and also that Black activists know this history. We have to know from whence we've come in order to strategize for the future, because the fight for racial and economic justice is a long one. And if we can have others like me find the blueprint that has been hidden in plain sight, basically in the archive, to say, here's what our folks had done before. right? Here are the pitfalls we've fallen into before. I think that is just one other way to aid in the struggle.
Do you have a copy of the book with you? So you can show the cover? Do you have it handy?
Wow, we've been talking about the book all this time, and I didn't realize we never saw the cover.
Me too. Yes, indeed. Basically, it's the thing that's behind me. But
Oh, okay.
because of
I'll
that,
put it
you
closer
might be able
to
see
you.
it.
Put it closer to you. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Our Secret Society.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
Molly Moon is the central character. This is history. And Tanisha Ford is the author. And before we go, your background is as a cultural critic, but do you teach college?
I do. I'm a history professor.
Because you said you had your dissertation. So most of the time when people do the dissertation, they teach somewhere, not always, but.
Yes, I'm a professor of history at the
Well, I am not
Graduate
surprised that
University.
you teach history, because you talk about the history in this book with such ease. I mean, you
Yeah.
talk about it like you knew her and you were with her the entire time. So you're very comfortable talking about what happened. So I can tell you must have been a history professor.
Yes, I'm definitely that. And I'm so glad that you say that, because I wanted to read with that kind of intimacy. Like it feels like, I know her, so you can know her, right? And many of us know women like her, who are the head of their social circle, who know all the people, who connect all the people to other people. So that's the way I want the book to read, so that the history goes down easy. You don't have to be a history buff in order to read and enjoy this book.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and congratulations on your books, Notoriety, Our Secret Society, and it's going to continue to make the rounds, I'm sure.
Yes,
Thank
and we
you
did
so
put
much.
the book, the website in the chat, so our viewers can reach out, get the book, and hopefully get an autographed copy.
Oh, yes, oursecretsociety.book.com. I would love to sign copies, and you can go see where I'm going to be on tour next in January and February. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Mhm.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're still just into the year. So we are going to be bringing on our next guest, but before we do, I just wanted to let people know this is the book we're giving away this week. I had said last week we're giving away the 3 books in the series by Eric LaSalle. He was on the show a couple of months ago, and this is book number 2, Laws of Wrath. And we'll do the trivia question after this next interview, so someone can win their copy of the book. So our next guest is a bookstore owner, and we've had a couple. We're going to be having a few more. We want to make sure as we go into the new year that people are aware of bookstores. Some of them are new, some of them are established, but we want people to support independent bookstores, independent Black bookstores, because it is definitely not easy to open and maintain a bookstore, just because of the times we live in. And I say that as a former brick and mortar store owner. So Janelle Brown, she's on, the microphone is on, but no camera so far. So
But it's saying that ability to detect my camera.
okay, I couldn't understand what you said.
On the system, either detecting the camera, so I need to join from my phone. I may do that.
Okay, well, the phone would have a camera on it. You're not on your phone now, are you?
Yeah, I'm on your phone.
So you should have a camera on.
It's not detecting it though, so we're gonna plan B. That's what business owners do, right? We pivot.
Okay, you're breaking up and we can't really understand. Well, I couldn't understand.
I couldn't understand.
Okay. We can't understand what you're saying. And then we can't see you yet.
Okay, hold on. I'm not doing it with my phone.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting on her to get on camera, we can go ahead and do the trivia. for the book. So, Laws of Wrath by Eric LaSalle. This is book 2 in his series. And the trivia question for this book is, in the book, in the storyline of the book, the butchered body of a cross-dresser is found in a dumpster in a specific area of New York City. What area of New York City is that? So, if you get the answer correct, it's an area of New York City, you win your copy of Laws of Wrath. So, Janelle, if you can turn the sound off on your other device and make sure we don't have cross
Okay.
cross talk.
That's better. Yeah.
That is great. Great picture and sound. Okay, wonderful. So
Yes.
Janelle Brown is the proprietor of Brown's Books and More in Decatur, Alabama. So welcome
Yes.
to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well,
Excited to
we're
have-
yeah, we are. One of our missions is not only to bring authors on, but bookstores, book clubs, anyone in the industry, because it takes all the synergy and relationship between all of these different moving parts to make Black literature thrive and be successful. So,
Right.
when did you open your bookstore, Brown? And Brown is your last name, but also Brown could be considered for brown people. So,
Right.
so that's, you had the right name for the right thing.
It worked out pretty good.
So,
But we started in 2018 being online and doing vendor shows. And then the brick and mortar was opened in 2021.
okay.
Okay, so you started off online and then decided to go to brick and mortar. I know, like with Gwen, she started off as a brick and mortar and then went to.
No, we were online first.
Oh, you were online first.
Yeah, so you didn't know about that. We went online in December of 1998.
Well, you always
We didn't open
surprising
the
us,
store
sister.
till 2000. So, and then we had it for 10 years. So, well, we started off online too, because that's in a way, that's how you get your following. But what we found, and this was in the early days of the internet, our market was everywhere. So most of the people we were selling to weren't where we were. They were all over.
Mhm.
So, but we were able to, build a good following. And now, where's Decatur, Alabama?
So Decatur is a
Uh,
metro of Huntsville.
Okay.
It's about 25 miles outside of Huntsville.
Okay. So what's the population? What size city is it?
I think it's around 40,000.
Okay. So
And
it's not
Huntsville is
tiny, but it's not huge.
correct.
And are you the only Black-owned bookstore in town?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
think really in North Alabama, as far as having a brick and mortar, we're the only one. And I think there's maybe one in maybe Central Alabama. So it's only like two, I think maybe 2 or 3 of us in the entire state.
Well, that's
Okay.
great because that actually gives your bookstore a chance to kind of be that community meeting place, so to speak.
Oh, for sure. Like we have people come up from Mobile, which is South Alabama, to do their book signings, Birmingham, Montgomery, all over. So we're like the hub.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you have a lot of and you mentioned that you have people who come in for book signings. So do you do book signings pretty often at your store?
Pretty often. We have at least I'll say at least one a month, but pretty often.
Now you opened during COVID, before we came out of COVID. So what impact did that have on your opening the store? Positive or negative, or what made you open in the midst of COVID?
Well, opportunity, because a lot of people decided to close their doors during COVID. So right at the end, there was a lot of rental spaces that came available. So it was really opportunity.
Okay, well,
Makes sense.
it does. And you have to, sometimes that's the best time when people, your renters, well, no, the landlords, they're motivated
You're
to
right.
to do deals.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out. But we took over for during COVID, but we really didn't open until we were given, the where people can go out in public. So we were free and
Okay.
clear open, but we still open and we had on masks. That was the norm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you specialize in a certain type of book, or are you pretty much selling across the board, or who is your target audience? Who comes into your store?
My target audience are the grannies, the good grandmothers that buy the children the books and, love to stay home and read. So that's my target audience. We have mostly used books. It's probably like an 80-20 split, just because I know I have to keep my numbers at a certain level for my area. But yeah.
So, so do you find yourself, you said you find yourself selling a lot of children's books then? Does that take a pretty good percentage of your shelf space?
No, it's all equal because I sell mostly, brown and black books, but I cover all genre of the books. But the children's books probably move the fastest. The children's books and the conscious books. So
Now, so of course we talk about COVID, but we also know that that was kind of the launching year for Black Lives Matter. And so a lot of people were buying conscious type books. So did you find yourself kind of having an explosion of those types of books, and then maybe it just kind of kept going from there?
Of course, but what's so funny about the conscious books is that a lot of non-Black people buy them.
Yes.
So you would think it would be, it would be the reverse, but it's not. But yeah, the conscious books, they kind of stay pretty steady, resulting from COVID and, pandemic and all of that.
So now, are you full-time with your store?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's great. So what's your background? What made you go into entrepreneurship?
My background is actually finance. I'm a banker. I'm in treasury. So I left corporate America about a career about 18 years and just had the opportunity to open the bookstore just from that passion of our test scores are so low in the area. It's to the point where the Hispanic students, their test scores are higher than Black students. And the English is their second language. So it's definitely a need there. So that's kind of how it was birthed.
So was this something that you thought about while you were banking? Were you sitting at the bank branch for years and waiting till the right time to open your bookstore?
I was.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So now, were you already planning on opening a bookstore and then the opportunity came and you just jumped on it then, or did the opportunity come and you said, hey, why don't I just open a bookstore?
No, I was already planning to open a bookstore, but it's hard in my area to find affordable rent.
Yeah.
So that's where the online and the vending spaces, it's a ton of us vendors out there just because we can't afford to be in a brick and mortar. So it was just an opportunity that came and I jumped on it. But the plan was to always have a bookstore.
Okay. So did you do like pop-up shops?
Yes.
Is that what you did? Because a lot of people get started like that.
Yeah. So the pop-up shop was books, but books are heavy, so you can't take a lot. So the pop-up started with Black art gifts, something that especially for women and church ladies, something to make us feel better, something to give us hope, and a little bit of inspiration and aspiration. So that was my main thing, were children's book and Black art gifts. So that's how I got started, with like Shades of Color, African American Expression, all those inspiring things.
Okay. I'm familiar with both of those for many years because when we had our brick and mortar, we we sold a lot of their products,
Yeah.
both of them. And we still sell calendars
Right.
online.
Yeah.
We still have our online, we sell calendars as far as products. That's one of the things that we sell other than our own branded items that we actually produce. But we stopped selling the books online. We promote books and then people can go wherever to buy them. But we were
That
surprised
helps
when
with
they,
overhead. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it does. There was another company that used to, but there was before you, but they sold more of the figurines and that kind of stuff, which kind
Yeah.
of fell out of popularity. But they were very popular in the 2000s.
I guess
It was
I'm an old soul because I still like figurines. I know you can't see my office right now, but I have figurines all over this office.
yeah, they used to be really hot in the 2000s. It was a
Yeah.
company called Sandy, and they did all of Annie Lee's. They licensed all of her stuff, and they had not just figurines. They had bathroom stuff, all kinds of artifacts, and it was really hot in the 2000s. That and what else was hot? Oh, Thomas Blackshear used to sell his figurines. I don't
I
know
have
if he
a Thomas
still
Black
does.
shit piece in my living room. See,
Yeah, I have one too.
I'm a
They were
figurine girl.
they were more high end. They were like 300 or like,
Yeah.
in that range. They were very beautiful, beautiful work though.
Yeah, I paid
Yeah.
about 20
People.
mine.
Yeah. They don't buy the. I stopped selling the figurines before the pandemic, so mostly I do now are the calendars. But we just don't have the people that that are in. Well, I think more of the grannies don't buy them because they feel
Yeah,
as if their kids don't care. But the
yeah.
people that know black figurines, they got them in the case. They still
Right.
love them. They make sure they're dust. But I don't sell those anymore.
Yeah, it's a season for everything. And that was
It is.
that was the 2000s. That and stage plays on DVD. That was something else that was very hot during
Bootleg
the
DVD.
2000s. Well, we bought them from their source.
You bought the real ones.
Were bootleg. Yeah,
Yeah, I
we
did too. And I actually think I still have some. I'm pretty sure I do, but I think I had, how you wanted to have the whole collection,
yes,
so.
they were popular. But like I say, there's a season for everything.
It is.
And now there's a lot of conscious clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of different t-shirts that have different sayings on them. And clothing with African print clothing and more fashion forward
Yeah.
African print clothing. Everything has a season.
So now when it comes to the books that you put on your shelf, do you find yourself doing more local authors or independent authors or national authors, or is it a combination of the two?
It's a combination of the two. Of course, it depends on how well the local author markets themselves, how well it sells. But as far as overall story, it's more national. But then I love local authors, so they always have a spot. Like if you come to my store, you're gonna recognize some names, in your community, and that's on purpose.
That's awesome. So now let's say an independent author does want to sell through your store. I know at one time consignment was pretty popular. Give me 5 books, and if they sell, I'll give you the money for the 5 books. But I know a lot of bookstores are going toward charging a certain fee to the author. So basically, the author is paying for shelf space. So, or do you just only purchase through a distributor?
So when I first started, I did consignment, but I just don't have time now. And keeping up with the sales, and I just don't have the time. So now the consignment I have are the people that like the best sellers that people come in every month, not every, once a year or something like that. So it's like the best sellers. Just because I can't give the author the full attention it needs. So now if an independent author wants to come on, I let them know, hey, I'll put you on the website. we'll do, I'll read it and do some reviews and do posts. And then if they purchase on the website, I'll notify you. That way there's no money being held out on any of our pockets. So that's what I offer them. And usually they like that because as they can at least direct somebody to a website besides Amazon to purchase their book. And then I always offer them a book signing or a book celebration.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's the thing about some authors don't understand about consignment. And I'm an author too, but I was a bookstore owner before I was an author, so I understood the dynamics of it. But if there's no real buzz to make the books move, one, they're not gonna move. And then if you're just collecting books and you have to keep a record of the books that come in, and if one sells or whatever, that's time, that's labor, and time is money. And so the way that you're doing it, it makes more sense for both parties, because that way you're not having to utilize shelf space. But big companies pay for shelf space, like in the grocery store and in the retail. Large companies, they pay for certain shelf space positioning. So paying for shelf space is a common thing in retail.
Right.
Because
but they have that foot traffic versus we're like, hey, please come read this book.
They do.
And that foot traffic is there.
Right.
Versus we're having to explain why it's so great for you to read, or or why you need to read, versus somebody just walking up on, So it's a difference. We work hard, I know.
I know.
Yeah.
And see, that's why authors need to understand, self-published authors and those with big, publishers. They need to drive sales. They need to promote the book. They need to be out there talking about it, doing different things.
Right. So, you can't expect to write a book and they will
to create demand.
Yeah. I give that speech every time. They'll say, I want to have a book signing. Make sure you tell people.
They think
that's
if
your
they build
baby.
it, they will come. But that doesn't work.
Well, I also think that, and I made the mistake when I first became an author as well. I thought that, okay, I'm going to have a book signing. I'm going to just take advantage of all of the traffic that's going to come to the bookstore that day. And the problem with that is if the bookstore is having a slow day, you're not selling any books.
Correct.
And even if they're having a pretty good day, if the customers never heard of you, sometimes they're not going to stop at your table. So they're going to say, oh, you're having a book signing? That's nice. And then they'll keep on walking. So you've got to be able to create some type of a buzz, maybe do a press release and send it to the local community paper.
Right.
With social media, try to target your ads. Let people know that you're coming. Find a way to let people know that you're coming. I mean, I host events, and I used to go through the same thing, where the author would want to be a part of the event, and they leave it up to me. And Gwen could attest this as well. They leave it up to the promoter, who's busy doing everything else, getting the event set up and doing everything else. Now we got to promote you too.
Putting out 15 flyers.
Especially when you don't know the product. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to people, if you only have one book and you're not known, and the book is more than likely a memoir type book, then it's just not going to sell that much. A lot of people think, okay, I write a book, and they just think sales are automatic. They don't understand the whole dynamic. And if you want to write a book, I say, write the book. And at least you have the book that you want, even if a lot of people don't buy it. I think the average number of books sold by self-published authors is like 250 copies. The average book published by a self-published author sells 250 copies. So there's not going to sell 1 million copies. Not your first book or your second or third. A lot of times it's the 5th book, the 10th book. It's not something that you can just do a one-off and think you're going to set the world on fire. That's just not the way any of it works. But hope springs eternal, and people will continue to believe that, because a lot of people who publish a book for the first time they aren't in the book world.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not in the literary world, so they don't even understand it. They just know they wanted to do a book. They want to write a
Right.
book. And so, but that's the nature of the beast. And so what would you say is one of the most exciting things about being a bookstore owner and one of the most challenging things?
The most exciting thing is, I would say the customers, because what we try to do at the bookstore is create community. So it's more than just a bookstore. You know, it's sort of like a Walmart where if you go in there, you're gonna see somebody that you know. And then plus we have a cafe, a smoothie bar there as well. So that's helpful. That was when I first opened bookstore owner, you know, he told me I have to balance the seasons, you know, nobody's reading, you know, in the summer. So you got to have something for people in the summer. So the most exciting thing are the customers, just because, especially little kids, we have little kids that come in and they look around and they cry, you know, because even though this is 2024, there are some kids that have never been in the bookstore that says, this a library? It's like the school, no, it's the bookstore, you know, so that's very rewarding. The most challenging thing is explaining how important books are, why Black authors matter, you know, the relatability, explaining that, you know, we perish because we lack knowledge. And this book is knowledge. So that's the hardest part.
Okay. Well, your bookstore is called Brown Books and More, or is it Brown's Books?
Brown.
Brown. Okay, Brown Books and More.
And
And
in chat as well.
it's in Decatur, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And which is not that far from Huntsville.
Huntsville. Yeah. So Huntsville, I think now is like the #1 city in the country that people are moving to in the nation. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the thing about our bookstore, it's a book for everyone, especially in multicultural diverse books, but we have customers of all backgrounds. So that buy just because I try to have a diverse selection of books, even though I specialize in, you know, a certain segment. I have all books, so it's pretty rewarding.
That's good. And Huntsville, is that where some major auto plant recently opened, like not too long ago, like Toyota or somebody like that?
Mazda, Toyota.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like we have the Redstone Arsenal, so that's a major Army base here. So we get, you know, I think the FBI just moved their command to Huntsville, Alabama. So it's a military place, and it's the largest city in Alabama right now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we've driven through there on road trips because our daughter I'm in Houston, but our daughter was in school in North Carolina, and my family was in North Carolina. So we used to drive, if we go the southern route, we would be going that way, and we would see that factory or the plant, the Toyota is huge. It's like humongous. You see it off of the highway. It's off the interstate, so you can really see it. So that's great. Well, Janelle, thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. Congratulations on your bookstore.
Thank you.
We hope 2024 is a banner year for you.
Yes, thank you. And thanks again for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, and best wishes to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. If you all are wondering why Rhonda doesn't have her normal background, she moved recently and she hasn't set up everything yet because she usually has all of her awards and all kinds of stuff behind her.
It looks so bare behind me. And I got the picture sitting right here. It'll go up.
So gradually she's going to get her woman cave set up so she can do her thing on camera. Like she was doing it before. But I'm so happy that you got back to home. Okay. She just recently moved into her new home, and congratulations, because I know how moving is. And I don't want to do it anymore anytime soon.
Look, I don't think I want to do it either. I'm just gonna have to make this house my forever home because I do not want to go through it again.
Yeah, I'm when we built our house, it was a forever home because it's just it's a lot to move. I mean, when you move, it's just, and some stuff you never can find. Like, I don't care how organized you label boxes. And once you get settled in and unpacked, it's some stuff that just disappears. And I don't know what that is, but did anybody win the book Lost of Brass? I didn't see the
No, I do not see an answer yet.
Okay, so if we'll do the trivia again, I will just announce the trivia that in the book there's a butchered body found in a certain section of New York City in this book that was a serial killer is on the loose. And so they find the body in a dumpster somewhere in New York City in a section. What section did they find it in? And if you know, and this book is by Eric LaSalle, the actor and author. So if you have the answer, put it in the comments and we will.
Renita said she missed the question, so I am going to repost.
Okay, she missed the question. Okay, because I don't see Curtis on. He normally.
Curtis was one of the first people to respond. I mean, to say hello, but he didn't answer the question.
Oh, okay. Not Harlem, Bernita. That's the wrong answer. You're guessing. So because that's a good guess, but no, it's not that sexy.
She admitted it. She's just guessing.
She said she was just guessing. So before we bring on our next guest, I do want to remind people that my books are available. I have a series called the Genesis series, and book 1 is the Genesis Files. You know, this is a mirror image after. The Genesis Files is book 1, and book 2 is Exodus from Treachery. And these books are mystery thrillers based in, the setting is Houston, and they are page turners. So they're available on Amazon or my website if you want an autograph copy. My website is my name, GwenRichardson.com. So our next guest, Chinatown, is the answer.
Oh,
Stephanie Burton got it. And she got the answer. So our next two guests.
Because he already has this book.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's what I did. Okay. Well, Curtis, I was just wondering. I said you're dropping off your game there. As those of you who watch the show know that we have a couple of publishers that are friends of the show. One of them is BK Royston Publishing, and the other one is She Publishing, LLC. So tonight we have an author from both of those publishing houses. This one is from BK Royston Publishing, and her name is Janet. And I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. I think it's C, but I'm not sure. And the Stanley. So Janet, tell us to be sure how we pronounce your name, because I don't want to butcher it. We don't have a sound.
You pronounce my name like the alphabet, C.
Oh, okay, C, because it's spelled S-E-A-Y. So I was like, okay, is it 2 syllables or 1? But it's pronounced.
Yeah, the Y is silent.
Okay, so Janet Seay-Stanley. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, thank you.
And you have a new book, and you published through BK Royston. Now, are you, is this your first book, period? Your first book with BK Royston, or have you published other books?
This is my first book, period.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Well, what inspired you to become an author?
I'm sorry?
What inspired you to become an author?
Oh, well, I just kind of got a little tired of listening to racism and hate, so I thought I'd write something about it.
And your book is called A Cup of Love.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a copy of your book with you?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. Now, can you hold it up a little higher so we can see the whole cover?
There we go. Joy, love, peace, self-control, and respect.
Okay, now this it's kind of like the fruits of the spirit, but not the actual ones, but it's a list of things that can be the outgrowth of love or lead to love.
That people can work on.
Okay. All right. So what who's your target audience for your book?
My target audience is racists and Blacks who commit crimes on Blacks. And the main point I would like for everybody to know is that God is a cup of love. That's why I have spiritual principles in here where we can learn spiritual principles, what we need to do every day.
Okay.
Wow, so those are two pretty difficult target audiences because you're going for racists and you're going for Blacks who commit crime against other Blacks. So what made you decide to target those specific groups instead of maybe targeting I hate to say an easier group, but maybe a more receptive group?
Well, I guess I'm kind of radical anyway. But one day I came home from work and I was listening to the radio and I can't think of the comedian's name right now. He was a white comedian and he was talking about how he would still, stick a pitchfork in Blacks, even after they've been hung. And I got home and talked to my husband about it, and I just couldn't stop crying. So that's always been on my mind. And as far as the Black on Black crime, that's an everyday, every morning thing that I wanted us as Blacks to, see what we're doing and kind of work on trying to better ourselves.
Yeah, the thing about a target audience is they may or may not find the topic, or you may not be able to reach them with your book, but you may be able to reach other people who are sensitive to the topic. But I don't think a racist would, I think they want to be the way they are. They might have to have one of those road to Damascus type experiences to change.
Maybe, yeah, you might think you looking at a person and you might think they're not racist and they might be racist. So who's to say whether they're racist or not? But once they read this book, I feel that, it could help them out as far as loving more, their brothers and sisters more.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, that's something that they could benefit from. So the person who, do you remember the comedian's name that was telling the joke that you were talking about? And when was it? When was it recently?
I think it was around most likely maybe 2009, 2008. If I saw his picture, I could say his name, but
okay.
They talked about it on the news, on the radio. It was a widespread talk.
Okay. Now, was this a national comedian or someone local? Oh, and where are you located?
I'm here in Franklin, Kentucky now. I've been here 5 years. I'm from Nashville.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but
no, that's fine. I just wondered because I need to look him up just to see who the heck he is and maybe put some negative reviews on somewhere.
Yeah, I'll probably send it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
So your book was just was published in October, is that correct?
In last year. Yeah. I was writing my book in 2016, but that was the time I was getting my master's. After my master's, I wanted to publish the book, but I decided to get my doctorate degree. And so after that, I said, well, let me go on and, publish this book because I wanted people to understand that, it's not good to hate.
Right.
Period. I mean, I don't care who you are.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. And I feel like, and the only reason I asked about the target audience is because, like I said, those are pretty challenging audiences, but at the same time, they're the ones who need to hear the message. So what my hope is that somebody picks up the book and to read it, but then they pass it to somebody who really needs to receive the message.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. Everybody's not going to read it. Everybody's not going to like it, but I was inspired to write this book, and I'm just trying to show that they can, come out of the hate that they have, whether they're white or whether they're black.
Absolutely.
So how did you connect with BK Royce Publishing? They've published a couple of hundred authors, and she comes to the National Black Book Festival every year and brings some of her books with her and some of her authors with her. So, and she'll be back again this year. So, Julia, because it's my team, Julia, the one
a friend of mine at my church heard about her. So I called her up and I told her that I was ready because there's no way that I knew how to set margins or anything else, when it comes to the book. So she really helped me out. And I really didn't care how much I had to pay. I just know that, if I'm inspired to write this book, that the Lord would make sure I have the money, and He did. So when the book came to my house, I was like, I can't believe it. I really can't, and I still can't.
It's like a baby was born, right? You just birth your story, you birth your child.
Yeah, and you always in hopes that people, enjoy it, whether they like it or not, and just enjoy it, reading it, everybody's not gonna like it, but hey, I thought I'd put it out there. So.
Well, it takes a certain amount of courage to put your words out there because you are opening yourself up to critique from strangers, and that's not always easy. But I will say that every time, it doesn't matter how many books that you write or publish or whatever, I have 15 books, and every single time is like the first time.
Oh my goodness.
Like the first time. When you open the box and you see your work, your finished product, it doesn't get old. It hasn't gotten old yet. And I don't know, when I get to maybe 50 books, I don't know if I'm gonna get that far, but
oh my goodness.
But I didn't know I was gonna get to 15. So I thought when I did my first one, I thought that was it. I've done it. I've got this book. And then, then you get other ideas for books. That's the way that works. But that feeling of accomplishment and pride is that you never
get old.
Right. It does not get old at all. I mean, every time I hold one of my books and I know that I wrote it, I edited it, I designed it, whatever it is, I'm like, I did that, and you're holding it. So it's a beautiful.
Right.
So congratulations on just getting past that hurdle of just having an idea and actually executing that idea. Because there are so many people out there who have been saying for years, I think I want to write a book, or I thought about writing a book, or one day I'm gonna write a book. And they've been writing those same 5 pages for the past 10 years. And they haven't done anything with them. So I really am happy that you got over that hurdle and actually execute. Do you feel that you're in the literary industry to stay now? Are you working on anything new?
Yeah. I do a lot of clergy work. So if I write another book, I would have to do it in between times. Like the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been to 11 funerals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those are things that I have to do. I wish it was marriages instead of funerals, but
Yeah.
but no. But I would hope to write another book.
So when what made you do your title? Did you come up with your title, or did BK Royston help you develop your title?
Well, that's my title because I wrote something years ago, and I called it A Cup of Love because I asked God to show me the love that He has for us, and He showed me the time before He even made us. He made sure He had all the resources here for us. That's the main love right there.
Well, that is the truth. And one thing that I find when I go on road trips or cruises, or recently I went to Alaska, and just God's paintbrush is unmatched.
Unmatched.
I mean, when you look at it, when you go somewhere that's not developed, the head where all the trees haven't been cut down, and the cement has been poured, but it's just pretty much close to its natural state. That's where the real beauty is.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been on just a couple of cruises. I hope to go on more. You said Alaska?
Yes, that's
Oh,
my best. I
wow.
think that's my best one. I've been on 8.
It's not as bad as you think it is.
No, they only cruise in the summer months, which is not, it's like 60 degrees. So it's not super cold.
Okay.
And it's just absolutely beautiful. It's the most beautiful cruise. And that's the first time I was in the Pacific Ocean as opposed to the Atlantic, because all my other cruises were the Caribbean or Central America, or but this is the first time going across the Pacific Ocean. And I was expecting the waters to be a little choppier, but they weren't. They weren't at all.
Okay.
And we actually saw like ice floating in glaciers before we even got to where we were going, to our destination.
That would be an amazing sight to see.
It is amazing. It's
Yeah, I'm gonna think about going there too.
And a lot of when you get off and you tour, you see, we went on a hiking tour, and then the tours took us all over this particular area. There's tons of lakes in Alaska, which I never even thought about, but there's mountains and lakes. Some of them have ice on them, ice on the top, ice just like on the sides. They have, the water runs off. It's like a fall, because when the water melts in the top, it comes down and falls. And they have like a little area that's like almost like a beach. It's amazing.
So you saw a lot of glaciers?
We saw a lot of glaciers. We got to eat seafood. We went to a seafood feast that they had just caught what we ate.
All right, Gwen, you didn't take a piece of the glacier and chill your drink with it, did you?
No, but I did. I did get some souvenirs.
But you heard about that, right? When Martha Stewart did that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
She went on some cruise, and I don't know how she got a piece of ice from a glacier, but she took a piece of the ice and she chilled her drink with it, and she took a picture with it, and then all these people started jumping on her, saying that she was killing the environment and she needed to leave the glaciers alone.
Oh, the glaciers are big. I mean, you get a little piece of it. It probably froze over before she even got it off of there. It's huge. It's huge. You can't even describe it. It's huge. It's just huge amounts of mountains with ice on them. So they're not going anywhere. And the people who live there, in one of the towns we went to, because we went to Juneau, but we went to a couple of other smaller places that are basically just tourist places. And they have the tourist months are like 3 months out of the year. And then in the summer, the rest of the time, those people are snowed in.
Right.
Months and months and months and months and months. Like where it snows a foot of snow every day, or 2 feet of snow. And it's not that many people that live in that little town either. So they have to really rely on their rugged individualism, and they have to live off the land, chop wood for fires and have 15 layers of clothes on when you go out. But it's just really
used to all that.
yeah. Well, I would
Have all those layers on anyway. That's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. But we were there when it was 60 degrees and it was 100 degrees in Houston, and we were happy to get away from the 100 degrees for
I know that's right.
we were happy about that part. But Janet, what do you want? What's the most important thing about your book? I know you had those different parts of love that you have on the cover, the different aspects of love that you want to share with your readers. So what made you come up with those? Are those from scripture? Are those from
these
ideas you had, or?
These are from scripture.
Okay.
And the most important part of the book is the spiritual disciplines that I have. That I had used one of my resources. These are things that, people are supposed to, but they don't. Like forgiving yourself and forgiving others, different types of prayers that we do, all that's in here. That's the most important part of the book, is the practices.
So you have the book broken down by scripture, and then you discuss the scripture?
When you talk about the practices, they're not, it's part of the Bible. You got like the fixed hour of prayer, you got the definition, you got the scriptures. It's more than one scripture. You got the scriptures, then you have the practices that include certain like following the prayers in the liturgy of the hours, following a personal liturgy for prayer at a set hour. Then you have the God-given fruit. So, just asking people to do their spiritual practices each day, they have to know more about, you just saying it, they have to know more about it. They have to know what the practices include, and one of these days I'm gonna go on a good retreat. I haven't been on a retreat yet. But one time I told my instructors I'm going on a retreat, and I went to my home because there wasn't nobody there. I had a retreat. Because it was quiet and it wasn't nobody there but me and God. So that was a retreat because my husband had passed, and some years later my second husband passed. So two marriages is it. I'm not gonna get married, I don't think, anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. It must be difficult losing two spouses.
Hey, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's real difficult. And but at least I know where they are.
Yeah, that's true. And did you lose them to illness or accident or?
Illness, both of them. The first one had we thought he had COPD, which he did, but he had an underlying disease, which was Lou Gehrig's.
Oh, Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, that takes away the muscle tones and all that.
Right.
Um,
And that's slow process.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we found out, I think he had just a couple of more years.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
So it was kind of further along when
By the
you
time
found
it was
it.
diagnosed, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And we really didn't know what it was, and they didn't either until they done a couple of myograms and stuff like that. My second husband, he passed. He had they were supposed to put 3 stents in. They done 2, but the last one, that day he didn't quite make it. You know, so
Mhm.
as a matter of fact, that was 2 years. Well, that was in 22.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry for your losses. I know this is difficult. Losing a partner like that is challenging. So, what have you been doing like in your local area with your book? Have you been out speaking with people? Have you done book signings? Did you have a book launch? Have you been promoting your book?
I had a book signing in Nashville, Tennessee, where I was born and raised.
Okay.
And then I had one here in Kentucky, and I went to the library here to ask, would my book be in their library? How would my book get in their library? And she said, they go by reviews. So people would have to review the book on Amazon.com. I said, oh, okay. So um, that was it. So I'm looking forward to going to, what is it? It's a author expo in um, Birmingham, Alabama on March 9th. And that'll be my first time going out, with my book. As far as that's about 5 hours away from here.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to just learn to just get out of here and talk about my book more.
Well, yeah, people meeting the public to talk about your book is a very good exercise in learning how people respond to certain pitches. Because, they say you need an elevator pitch for your book, which means if you're in an elevator with somebody and you have 30 seconds or less to tell them about your book, what's the elevator pitch? And getting out and meeting people helps you refine your pitch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because certain things work and some things don't. You have to.
Right. I can imagine because I don't know what my picture would be, but
Well,
but
no, your pitch is the way you describe the book to us.
really,
You should be able to talk about your book for at least 30 seconds without saying, without pausing. And the more you practice that, the easier it will be to tell people about your book. Just picture yourself in an elevator with someone, and you have to tell them about your book until they get to the next floor.
okay.
And people really buy you. They buy your book, but
Right.
they buy you. They buy your enthusiasm.
Okay.
And your ability to persuade them or just tell them about what you have. That's really what gets
And
them
also remember,
interested.
if you're not excited about your book, they're not going to be excited about your book. So when you're talking about your book, show that enthusiasm, show that passion, the same passion that you put into writing the book, you've got to put into promoting the book.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's
Okay.
important. Well, we're at the end of our interview time, but we are excited always to have authors through BK Royston Publishing. And tonight we had Janet Seay-Stanley and her book. Show your book cover again, Janet, for us. A Cup of Love. And it's about love, joy, peace, self-control, and respect.
Hold it back toward you, like in front of you.
And hold it up a little bit more so people can see the whole cover.
There we
with
go.
it?
Yeah,
That's
Okay.
better.
that's better. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and much success with your book and your promotion. And just remember to refine your elevator pitch.
Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show, and congratulations on publishing your first book. And we hope to see much more from you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.
All right. So that was Janet Seay-Stanley with BK Royce Publishing. And so we have our final guest is with She Publishing LLC. But I wanted to say that Stephanie Burnham won the book, Laws of Red.
Yes.
So we will be sending that out to Stephanie this week. So she will have her copy of the book. And for those of you, one other thing I did want to announce about that I didn't mention at first at the top of the show, the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards process has started. So if you have a children's book that you've written and you want to submit it for it's a competition, it's a process, but this is our third year doing it, and we have 8 categories. The book has to be published in either 2023 or 2024 because the process is for new books. So each year we move the year forward once. Last year, the book had to be published in 2022 or 2023. So for this year's process is 2023 and 2024. It can be a children's book from small children up to teens. And there are 8 different categories you can submit in. You can submit in more than one category. So go to BlackAuthorsMatterBookAwards.com and you'll find out all the details about the process. So our final guest tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is with She Publishing LLC, and they are a friend to the show. And they also come to the National Black Book Festival every year with several authors. So tonight we have Royce Dixon Sr. as our guest that we're going to be finding out about him. Now you have on your frat t-shirt.
Well, before
And
we say anything else, before we say anything else,
Okay.
before we say anything else,
Okay.
Happy Founders Day, Fred.
Now I was gonna say something only because my daughter is a Zeta. She's dating a Sigma, and they're at a Sigma's Founders Day event.
Yes, it is
So I
Founders
knew about it.
Day. 5
I knew
days.
about it.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Yeah, so welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and you were at this year's National Black Book Festival. I didn't get an opportunity to meet you, I don't think,
Yes, ma'am.
one-on-one, because I'm working when I'm at the event. So,
Right.
but when I received the hundreds of pictures that our photographer takes, and I have to go through them and label them. And then I found your picture, but I didn't know who you were. And then I think I found another picture and it showed you with She Publishing. So that was how I knew that you were with She Publishing. And then I think we posted the pictures. We did. We posted an array of pictures from She Publishing, and yours was one of them. So I hope you had an enjoyable time at this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
And we always like Shanita is an awesome person, and she's built an awesome organization and her group of authors. What I like about them, the ones she brings, and she brings several, everybody is so upbeat. All of her authors are very, very enthusiastic and the kind of people you just want to talk to. You know, so Royce, tell us about your book, and then you're working on another book, and you mentioned a few other things on your bio that I want to ask you about. Okay. But first, tell us about your book, and if you have a copy, do you have a copy of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Feelings book.
So this is my first copy.
Okay.
I know it's kind of hard to see because I keep it in the plastic because it was my original copy that she sent me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I know how special that is.
Yeah.
So it's called, what's the title?
The title is Hidden Feelings Revealed. It's part 2 of my very first book that I wrote Hidden Feelings.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's actually your second book, and then you're working on your third book.
I actually have 4 books out. I have another
Oh,
book that I did, Blessed While Broken. This is a story about my wife and I, our divorce, and then getting remarried, and now how we help others to stay connected before you get down to get to divorce court.
okay. And I think that was one of the things I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. And then I have a children's book, JoJo's Learning Adventures, which I
Okay.
self-published this one. I did all the illustrations for it. This is about a 4-year-old boy who just loves to learn different things. Every day he tries to learn something new.
Okay.
But
All right.
Hidden Feelings is basically about why men have a hard time sharing their feelings or showing emotions. It talks about some of the reasons my main character, what he went through as a child and how it affects him at a later age. You know, he grew up with his father died early, so it was just him and his mom. He's a single young man, and he's an attorney who talks for a living but doesn't know how to communicate with his girlfriend when his mom dies. And she kind of gives him an ultimatum: either you let me in, let me help you, or this ain't gonna work. And so they break up, and then in part 2 you find out and she also had a baby. You find out if they had a baby together and how Troy got past his own insecurities and learned how to talk and communicate with his girlfriend.
Yeah, I think we talked about this book before, and one of the things that strikes me is that this character is a lot like men who don't want to express their real feelings because they don't want to show any signs of weakness. And to express how they really feel is to admit that there may be a kink in the armor, that they may not be as strong as they're saying they are. And that can often be a fallacy.
Right. Most men don't want to show that their vulnerable side, especially to someone that they care about, because sometimes in a relationship that'll come back in their face, and it hurts too much. So rather than doing that again, we just shut down altogether, or we build this wall so that we won't be hurt. But the thing about building a wall, nothing gets out, but nothing comes in either. So it's difficult for a lot of men to share that vulnerable side or show that vulnerable side.
So, but how do you get past something like that? I mean, because I feel like sometimes, and this is even for women, especially Black women, because we're always told we have to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, we're talking about men. How do you work through that wall to where you can express your feelings and not show weakness or not feel like you're showing weakness?
Right. I think it comes with time. It comes with maturity, having the right person in your life. Like for me, I was that guy who didn't want to show my weaker side, but my wife allowed me. She gives me the space to become vulnerable. She makes me comfortable. Where I can feel like I can tell her anything. And once I began to get comfortable with her, and she showed me that she wouldn't hurt me, then it became a lot easier. But for a lot of guys, it's just hard. It's something that you got to get past. I think maybe if we go and talk to someone else, talk to another man, that may be easier for you because that man won't see you as vulnerable. He'll just see you as you being you. When you develop these relationships with your friends, like of course, I got fraternity brothers that I know I can go and talk to, and I never have to worry about our secrets leaving one another. So, and then too, even with my own dad, I can go and talk to my dad about anything and everything. And so that makes it easier for me to learn how to talk to her because he'll give me valuable tips. So maybe even find an older man or pastor or somebody that you can talk to. But we all need somebody to talk to.
That is true. Because we're all humans, we need to share. And sometimes you just sometimes you want to hear a person's point of view, but sometimes you just want to talk. Okay. You don't need them to give you advice or anything. You just need to get it out. And that's true for women as well.
And, I've noticed too, like people will go on Facebook and vent, but they'll go back. They only show the good side of what's going on in their lives on Facebook. You never see the bad. So you never know what a person's going through. Once I went through the divorce and I began to talk about our divorce, I found other men coming to me like, man, I'm going through that same thing. And, then they start asking questions, and now you can create that dialogue to where I can help somebody else or they can help me or what vice versa. They can help the next person. But it wasn't until I became transparent, stopped showing all the good stuff that, yeah, I go through things. Like you said, I'm human and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to all fall short. But at the end of the day, we should be here to lift one another up.
Well, one thing that you said that I want to touch on is the partner, the man's partner,
Mhm.
creating a safe place for him to feel vulnerable, and not having to be afraid that that same vulnerability is going to be weaponized against him. So if I want my significant other to be honest with me, to let me know how he really feels, I have to prove myself to be somebody who's trustworthy enough for you to confide, for him to confide in. And if I don't do that, then he's never going to open up to me.
Right. You know, and it goes back to the whole story of Samson and Delilah. Delilah tricked Samson into telling her all his secrets by she made him comfortable. Lay your head in my lap. You know, she stroked his ego. She did all these little things that built him up. I mean, it was for his downfall at the end of the day, but at the same time, that's how she got him to do it. That's how women can get men to open up when you give them that vulnerable space, but also allow them to trust you enough that when they tell you something, that you're not going to weaponize it and throw it back in their face later on down the road. And so
Well,
once you do that,
part of that was his fault
right,
because he was ignoring those red flags. Every time he opened up to her, she used it against him, but he still kept opening up to her.
right. But you see, he still kept going back because she kept making him comfortable. And that's
Yeah,
really how
well,
men are.
that was more about lust. And so that is lots of times men get caught up in that and they miss out on a woman who could be for them and by their side and support them 100%. But they're so caught up in the esoterics that they don't see the commitment, and they take that for granted. A lot of times, by the time they realize that what they have is just it's not real, it's just then it's too late. So, but that's part of it. Now, I will say on social media, I would advise people in a marriage or any kind of relationship, keep your relationship off of social media.
Yes.
Because nothing good can come from that. People, I'll give you a recent example is this whole thing with Simone Biles and her husband. And where he was interviewed and said something and people took it out of context and tried to make Simone feel bad. And, it's just best to keep your relationship because, for one, social media is not your friend. The people are your friends, but they're not your friends. They're just people. And you sometimes seem like every week they just need something to talk about. It's some kind of gossip that they can talk about for the week. And your personal relationship with your spouse or your significant other should be personal. It should not be on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. And I tell people the only thing you should really post is your anniversary. Say it's our anniversary. That's it. Everything else is really not for public consumption because people would use it against you. It's all kind of people trying to get with your mate. It's if you show that y'all are having problems, somebody will swoop in and try to take advantage. It's just not the place for relationship advice or just anything with a relationship.
I agree.
That's my 2 cents.
I agree to a certain extent because I celebrate my wife every day, every chance I get, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, just in life in general. When they see us out, you'll see how much I love my wife. And
Oh,
so
I don't mean like that.
I'm just saying in general,
like
I don't really post our intimate stuff. But like even when we went through the divorce, and I got hundreds of friends on Facebook, but not many people knew that I went through the divorce or that even we had got back together. And so when they found out, when I wrote the book, they were like, "You got divorced?" Well, yeah, we were divorced for almost 2 years.
How long were you all apart when you got divorced? How long was it between?
We were apart for maybe 6 months, but
So you got divorced and then 6 months later y'all got back together?
Yeah, and then 2 years to the date that we got married we got remarried. So we were divorced for what, a year maybe a year and a half or so.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a hard time. But when people saw us, we never bashed each other or nothing like that. So that's why I say a lot of people didn't even know that we were divorced until the book came out. And then they're like, I didn't know.
And I do want to be clear. I mean, putting your problems on Facebook. That's what I mean. Right. I mean, if you want to praise your wife every day, that's great.
I would say this. I believe, because you brought up the Simone Biles thing. I believe that people got upset because just like Royce said that he celebrates his wife. And I didn't hear any of the interview. I'm only going by what was in the article. So he might have said something great about her before or after this piece. I don't know. But the fact that he did not, when he was directly asked about his wife, he took that time to and made it look like he was dimming her light. I didn't know who she was. She reached out to me. The man is the prize. And when you made those comments and then he never came back and said, but I'm happy to have her. She's been a blessing to me. Or even after all of this stuff exploded, he still never came back and celebrated his wife. And I think that's what people got upset about. So that's why
I agree that it shouldn't have never been said.
Like Royce is saying, he's saying that he takes every opportunity to celebrate his wife. It doesn't mean he has to worship his wife, because we only worship the Lord. But the fact is that he takes the time to show everybody that his wife is a blessing to him and that his wife is a valuable part of his life.
No, I agree with that. I think that's great. And I'm not. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I'm talking about putting your problems on social media. Talking when you all have a rift. People should not know your problems like that. It shouldn't be a discussion for other people because they can't solve it anyway. You have to come together and solve it. So, but I applaud you for celebrating your wife. That's great. And men, that would be something that a tip for some people who may not know that they should do that, or it would be a good idea. And just like I say too, a kind word turns away wrath. Like if you have an argument or whatever, a kind word, and that's biblical, a kind word can turn the whole thing around. So, there's a marriage is not it's not like the wedding is just an event. A lot of people, they focus so much on the wedding and they forget about the marriage, the relationship. I've been married 31 years, so to the same person, and we didn't break up or anything, but I was married before very briefly to someone else. So I just learned a lot about what I didn't want in a mate and what I did want in a mate. That's what I learned.
You set standards.
Yeah.
You have a huge year coming up. You have a new book coming out. You meet me here in DC. What else do you have going on?
And he's a bailiff. Are you a bailiff now?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a bailiff. I'm a photographer, author. I do a little bit of everything. I run the social media department at my church. So I do a lot, but my next thing is, like I said, I'm going to be in DC in February, the 22nd through the 25th. And then I know I want to go back to Houston again, but I'm doing some photo shoots in Chicago. So I got a couple things in the works. I'm not sure how much I can really talk about it some things with She Publishing we got coming up. That's going to be really exciting. And hopefully one day I can get one of these books turned into a movie.
All right. Well, tell us about the new book. What's the new book about? Are you ready to talk about it yet?
A little bit. I can talk about it. I know the title for sure is going to be A Rose on the Concrete Court. It's about these two twin brothers who play basketball. Their last name is Rose, which is why that Rose on the Concrete Court. Okay. But they grew up in the same household with the same mother and father, and they take two different paths. A lot of times we think that people who grew up in the same household are always going to be on the same path. And that's not always the case. Not necessarily that one's a bad kid or one's a good kid. They just choose two different ways to go about life. And at the end, these two brothers are going to come back together and do something spectacular. So that's all I'm really ready to say about the book, but I'm excited about it. It's going to be a really good book with some twists and turns into that you may not see coming.
Okay, and that what you said was very true about people growing up, in the same household, but they're still individual. We all have our own individual soul, our own individual personality, and you can be raised in the same household, same parents, but it just birth order has a factor, but a lot of it is just individual personality, just who you are, and the relationship with each other, with the siblings and the parents. It's all of that.
So it's got some a little bit of me, a little bit of my brother in it. And so once you get to once you get the chance to meet my brother, we'll do some interviews and stuff on my podcast, and you'll see how the book kind of takes form after that.
Okay, now what is your podcast? What do you focus on with your podcast?
Marriage, relationships. It's me and my wife. We have a marriage ministry called I Still Do Ministry. I Still Do Relationship Ministries, to where we talk about different relationship topics and stuff like that. And then every now and then I'll get together with a group of guys and we'll just sit down and have a guy talk, a roundtable discussion on different issues that affect men.
Okay. Now you are,
That's that man, almost that man cave type thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like on Ready to Love, when they're all sitting around with their drinks and cigars and just talking about the women.
Right. Definitely something similar to that. The last one we did, we kind of talked about men's mental health and how important it is, because a lot of times, like, going back to the books, Hidden Feelings, that we keep all this stuff buried inside and we never let it out. But around a group of men, like we in the barbershop, men talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kind of want to bring to the roundtable discussion when we have it with men.
Now, this happens with some men. A man will be hurt by a woman, and then it's like and I guess it happens with women too, but it seems like it's harder with men or something, where a woman will hurt a man, and then after that he just won't let women in, like in here anymore, and he has to almost be mean.
Yeah, and it happens. And when you look at it, look at how men grow up as babies growing up. If the little boy falls down, you tell him to get up, pick himself up, be a man. Don't cry. Men ain't supposed to cry. So what are we telling our young men but to suppress your feelings? You're not supposed to let it out. And then they go and see it on TV. Then you don't see your dad cry. You don't see your dad really show any feelings or showing his emotions. So this is how you grow up. You thinking this is the way I'm supposed to be, when all along that's not true at all. It's okay to cry. It's okay to share your feelings. But when our daughter falls, that same exact scenario, when our daughter falls, we tell them, oh, come here, tell daddy what's wrong. Tell mommy what's wrong. So you telling her to let it out, but you told your son to let it in, keep it in.
And then when the girl gets older, she gets punished for being too emotional.
Right. So, it's a double-edged sword for kids growing up, period. Unless you have parents who really sit down and think about what they're doing, what they're saying, and how what they're portraying in front of their kids really affects them, not just when they're little, but as they grow older, because we tend to take those same habits and put them in our own households.
That's true, because once we're molded and we repeat some of the things that we liked. Well, sometimes we don't even realize we're repeating the negative things. We don't even know that we're doing it. Right. Unless somebody points it out, and they have to point it out in the right way.
That's so true. Like I said, even for instance, if your mom is teaching you how to cook, sometimes she don't tell you why she's doing it. This is just the way she do it. So then you grow up, you start cooking those same dishes, and you do it the exact same way. You don't know why you did it that way. It's just the way mom showed you.
Mm-hmm.
What if it was wrong all this time, and you've been doing it wrong all this time?
Yeah, when I was married, my ex-husband was to get on my nerves because I'll be cooking. My mama didn't do it like that. Your mama not cooking.
Right.
Leave me alone.
My husband didn't say that, thank God. But he had a different relationship with his mother, so he didn't really have that. And so, but that would have made me mad.
That's what I'm saying. Like, get out of here.
The first time we were married, and growing up, we got married when we were 20. So I would always live with my parents. So when I got married, I'm living on my own with just me and my wife and the kids. I'm expecting my wife to do the same things that my mother did. Well, she didn't grow up like my mother, so she don't have that same routine, so to speak. She's gonna do things her way, the way her mother taught her. So now I'm looking at her like, why are you doing this though? This ain't the way mama did it. Not realizing I'm putting my expectations on her, from what I saw my mother, I'm putting those expectations on her, and that wasn't fair to her.
Yeah, I don't think that would have gone over there. That probably went over like a lead balloon.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, too funny. honey.
Now, I want to find out about you being a Sigma, just since you have on your frat shirt.
Yeah.
And where did you pledge? I'm not Greek, so
Okay.
but Rhonda is Zeta, and so but my daughter is Zeta, so that's why I know about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know about all the Sigma Founders
yeah.
Day and all that. But where did you pledge? And
February 9th, 2011, with the incredible the magnificent New Pi Sigma, right here in Rockville, Illinois. I pledged grad chapter, but one of the best things I ever did.
oh, okay, so you did grad chapter.
Yep.
Oh wait, how close is Rockville to Chicago?
It's an hour and a half drive, depending on what part of Chicago you're going to. Some parts 2 hours.
I might not see you then. My daughter's going audition for grad school, and we have to go to Chicago. So
Okay.
just gonna let you know when I was in the area, but that's a little bit of a drive when you don't know where you're going.
Just let us know. Just let us know where you're gonna be at.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Like I said, it's not that far. I mean, it's not that bad at all.
Yeah, we had another author that was from Rockford, Illinois, not too long ago. The guy who had the book called The Preacher and then The Pimp.
Yeah, Ralph Hawthorne.
Yeah, you know him?
Yes, ma'am. And he was in Houston with us too.
He was.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So it's because Rockford's not a big town, a big city.
Yeah. About 150,000 people.
Okay, well that's a decent size though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was on the show, and he's a minister too. He was on the show maybe 3 months ago, something like that.
Okay.
Something like that.
Chicago's starting to be popping. Everybody in Illinois now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cold. Is it snow on the ground?
Oh my God. We had a snow warning. We're supposed to get 6 to 12 inches of snow. Thank God we didn't get it though.
No, thank you.
We didn't get it. So we got lucky. But it's supposed to snow again tomorrow, so we never know.
Yeah.
It doesn't last too long.
So is it as cold there as it is in Chicago? Because Chicago's at the lakes. So
yes, ma'am. It's not as cold, but it gets cold. When it's minus 20, minus 30, it's all cold.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be getting some cold days next week for us in Houston. It's supposed to go down in the 20s at night for a couple of nights. That's a major thing here.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to get, I think, -7 with the wind chill. So
No, thank you.
So I hope this year, the last time when we had the deep freeze, Rhonda, you remember we lost power, and I had to do the show from my daughter's car outside because her car was parked in the driveway, and I couldn't get the garage open other than on manual. So I just did it. I did the whole show from my daughter's car.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's cold here, but it's gonna feel like summertime to you. If you're dealing with -7 weather out there,
oh yeah,
you're gonna weather here in DC when you come next month.
Oh, I can't wait.
I don't know what that feels like. I've never been in anything that cold. I have been in like 10 degrees, not here, but when I lived on the East Coast. But
yeah, but he said -7.
Yeah, but the negative, not below zero. I've never experienced
it gets
that.
colder. It gets colder than that.
So all right, I'll make sure I bring my coat when we go up to Chicago at the end of the month.
Yeah, get you some gloves too.
Yeah, I'm about to say I gotta get my good coat.
Yeah. And you have to dress for the weather.
Yeah. That's what it boils down to.
Because otherwise you'll regret it. So anyway. So Royce, show your book again, Hidden Feelings Revealed. And that's your Hidden Feelings. And then the sequel, Hidden Feelings Revealed. And then you have a new book coming out this year sometime later on. But you're going to be at Rhonda's event at the end of February. And hopefully we'll see you in October at the National Black Book Festival.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to come back. I really enjoyed myself there. So looking forward to it. Okay.
Well, Happy New Year and congratulations on your books and all the stuff that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So, thank you.
And I will see you. Well, I think I'll see you in a couple of weeks on my show. And then I'll see you next month for the Black History Month Literary Weekend. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait.
Okay, you take care. Have a great
day. You too. Bye.
Okay, everybody. So that's the show for this week. We had another amazing lineup of guests. And next week we will have something similar for you again. We are a lot of our shows are filling up. People are signing up for the month of February for Black History Month. And so we actually have 2 of those nights already completely booked. And so if you do want to get on the show in February, be sure to sign up by going to blackauthors.mattertv.com. So that's it for tonight. And we will see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.